What's up guys, my name is Adriel Rivera and today I'm going to be showing you how to easily mix beats like a pro in FL Studio 20 so you can get something that sounds like this.
Back then I was such a clown looking for some love, and then I felt something spark between the two of us. Your beauty and your care, everything that you wear, it's super duper cute, just like everything you do.
Now we're going to be achieving this sound in 3 simple steps. Step 1, balance. Step 2, stylize. And step 3, stereoize, or BSS for short. Now, if you guys haven't already, make sure you subscribe and turn on the bell notification icon to get notified whenever I upload a new video. The song that we're going to be working on is called Oh So Fine, which is a single I just recently released. So if you guys want to listen to it, you can click the I icon right here and it'll take you to my new single. Now, if you guys don't already know, I'm a musician that recently just graduated high school and now I am doing this full time. I'm just a young artist trying to follow my dreams, so if you guys want to keep up with that journey, make sure you subscribe and hopefully I can inspire you to pursue your passion as well. And by the way, if I look a little more tan than usual, it's because I just got back from vacation, so just throwing that out there. I didn't get a spray tan, this is all natural. But enough with my rambling, let's get on with the tutorial. Now, the first step we're going to be working on is balance. And by the way, the steps that I'm giving you don't have to be followed in a specific order. I'm just giving you the order that I feel makes the most sense. But in all honesty, when I'm mixing and I'm doing my music, I don't follow these steps in a particular order. I kind of do it as I go on. And more than likely, what I'm going to be showing you is something that you already do, you just don't realize it yet. But that's the whole goal of this video, is to try to get you to understand what you are doing so that you can use it to your advantage and make your mixes sound 10 times better. So first things first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find one of the busiest parts of my song. So I'm going to say it's going to be around here. This is where my chorus is. And I'm just going to loop my chorus so we can just keep listening to it over and over. Now, since this is a very repetitive chorus, this might get stuck in your head. I'm sorry. Again, if you want to listen to the song only after you finish watching this tutorial, you can click the I icon up here and it'll take you to the single called Oh So Fine. Now, at the moment, I already have everything mixed. So if we have a listen, this is essentially the final product that we're trying to get. So let me go ahead and reset all of my tracks so I can show you how I got to this point. Alright, so now I reset my tracks and organize them a little better so you can see which ones are part of the chorus. Right here we have the guitar, the kick, the hi-hats, the clap, the snare, the 808, the chorus, the noise transition, the crackle, and the piano. All of this is part of the chorus, and I just labeled it and color-coded it so it's easier for you guys to see. Now, if we have a listen to everything reset, you're going to hear it's not going to sound good. Nothing near to what I showed you at the beginning. So if you have a listen, cover your ears if you have to.
We're so fine, oh, we're fine, we're oh so fine, and I'm feeling so good. Fine, we're so fine, oh, we're
Alright, I'm just going to stop that there. As you can tell, that kick is just too harsh, the claps are too loud, the vocals aren't mixed at all, and overall things just don't sound good. So what we have to do is balance this out. Honestly, all that means is just taking the levels of each individual element and finding a good mix that suits your ears. So having everything at the same volume is definitely not the way to go, because you want certain parts of your song to stand out and certain parts to just be little elements in the background. Think of it like this. When you mix a cake, you don't have equal parts of everything. You know, there's not as much flour as there is sugar, and there's a reason for that, because if everything was the same amount, it would not taste good whatsoever. So we are only adding just enough of the ingredients that we need so that this mix sounds and tastes delicious. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to listen to the chorus and change the levels of certain elements that I think that need to be changed. One of the first things that I know I want to change is the snare and the clap. I think they're too loud and too apparent. Another thing that I notice is the crackle. The crackle sounds too in your face, and that needs to be a background element. And that little piano solo in the middle of the chorus, I think needs to be a little more brought down, because it's just supposed to be a nice little melody behind the vocals. So now let's actually get to work. I know I'm gonna bring down the snare and the clap because I know this is a little too harsh.
I'm feeling so good.
So already that's sounding a lot better. That clap and snare is not in your face. And at that level, it sounds pretty good. Now remember, I usually do this as I'm making the song. Of course, I add on elements as I go. And as I'm adding the elements, I change the volume as I see fit. Mixing is not a thing that happens after you've created the song. You probably are already doing this with your mixes, because this is essentially all mixing is. So if something isn't sounding right and you're already further along into your mix, don't be afraid to go back and change things. Mixing is not a perfect process, and more than likely you're going to be coming into a lot of obstacles that you need to face. So don't be afraid to tweak things. Everything doesn't have to be perfect right away. And more than likely, nothing will be perfect. You're always going to have little bits and pieces that you're going to nitpick. But remember, you will improve as you go on. Now let's go ahead and give this another listen. I'm going to focus on the kick, and I'm just going to get it at a right volume that I think it needs to be at.
Fine, we're so fine. Oh, we're fine, we're oh so fine. And I'm feeling so good.
Now that is a lot more manageable of a volume. Next, I think I want to move on to the hi-hats.
Fine, we're so fine. Oh, we're fine, we're oh so fine.
And then also maybe bring down the 808 a little more.
Fine, we're so fine. Oh,
definitely this piano needs to be going more in the background.
I'm feeling so good.
And that transition needs to be a little more quieter.
We're fine, we're so fine. Oh, we're fine, we're oh so fine.
And now you can see I didn't really mess too much with the levels of the chorus, because when it comes to songs, how I think of it is that the thing people notice the most is the vocals, because we recognize human voices a lot better than instruments. And having that more present, more forward, I think is going to make your mix a lot better, because that's what people want to hear more. But already this is sounding a lot better than what we had before when everything was the same volume. Now, of course, I want to go back and tweak a little bit more so that things can sound a little better than what they already are. But I'm sure you're already getting the idea of what I'm trying to do. I'm just taking these elements, balancing them out, not balancing them in the same volume, but balancing them in terms of the whole entire song. And the good thing is, since we started at a more busy part of the song, like in the chorus when most of the instruments are in, when we go on to the verse, most of the verse is already going to be mixed how we want it to be mixed, because we already took care of the mixing within the chorus. Now, something I forgot to mention at the beginning of this is a question that most people ask: should you mix on headphones or on speakers? And there's a lot of debate on this. How I think of it is that mixing in headphones is a little more for fine tuning and getting really into your mix and making sure that everything sounds good, because, you know, the drivers are right next to your ears, you can hear things a lot better. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't get a pair of studio monitors. I already have some speakers up here that I use all the time to mix, and usually what I do is I alternate between them. Now, for the sake of the video, I'm only going to be using my headphones, but what you should be doing is having both headphones and speakers, because this is going to be able to get you the best mix that you possibly can, because headphones don't sound the same as speakers. There's going to be people that listen to it in the car, on their phone, or through headphones, and overall they will all have a good listening experience because you took the time to mix with both headphones and speakers. Now, if you're interested, the speakers that I use are the Mackie CR3s, and the headphones that I use are the Technica ATH-M50x headphones. It's a lot of letters. But if you're interested, links are in the description. You can tell I've been using these headphones for a long time. They're all beat up, but it's because I love them so much. I should probably get new ones though. But anyway, I'm going to finish up balancing this, and then we'll move on to step 2. All right, step number 2 is what I like to call stylize. Basically, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking certain elements and adding effects to them so that they sound better in the mix. So this could be things like EQ, reverb, compression, any sort of effects that you want to add so that it makes sense in the context of your song. So a good example that I'm going to give you is the guitar. This is how the guitar sounds like without any effects. There's a lot of low end that is present, and it sounds good, but I think we can make it sound a little bit better. So what I've decided to add is a little bit of EQ. We're basically just taking out some of the low end right here, some of the mid range to get rid of those muddier frequencies, and then a little bit of the high because I don't want to have that ringing sound of the strings. Now, if you want to know more about EQ, I made an entire tutorial about EQ that you can check out clicking the eye icon up here. I also have a full playlist about making music down in the description if you want to give it a watch. There's hours of content there if you need it, so go ahead, give it a watch, and give that EQ tutorial a watch if you don't know much about it. Next, I decided to add some blood overdrive. This is basically just a distortion filter that's going to give it a little more of a kick. Next, I added some reverb to give it more space and more room, because a little bit of ambience is going to put it more in the background and just give it more context, if you will, because usually things are in a certain space. If you were to hear the song live, the guitar would be reflecting all over the walls and you'd hear the room as the song is being played. We're basically mimicking that with reverb and just giving the song more of a lively feel. And then next, I added this limiter because there's a sidechain option that allows me to sidechain this guitar to the kick. And this is basically every time the kick comes in, the guitar is going to duck down a little bit so that you can hear the kick more. So that way we don't have to have the kick blasting so loud that it becomes distorted. It could be at a nice volume while still maintaining the balance of the song. So if you want to learn more about sidechaining, I actually already made a tutorial about this too. Again, eye icon up there. You can find all the tutorials that I'm talking about. Sidechaining tutorial, go ahead and watch it after this video. But anyway, just a refresher, This is how the guitar sounded before. And then now this is how it sounds like with the effects on. Nothing major, but these little details are what really makes your mix sound great. Another example of sidechaining is you'll see this a lot in music. People tend to sidechain their kicks and 808s because since 808s and kicks are usually low frequency, you might not be able to hear one over the other. So sidechaining the kick to the 808 will make it a lot easier to hear the kick while also hearing the 808 at the same time. So here's the kick in an 808 without any sidechaining. And here's the kick in the 808 with sidechaining. So it's just a lot easier to hear. Again, tutorial up there. Watch it after this video. Now we're gonna move on to that piano. This little background piano. So now you can hear that piano is very sharp, very present in your face. I really like the sound of this piano, but I don't want it to be so foreground. I want it to be nice and subtle in the back. Just something that adds a little more to the song without overpowering the vocals, which is the main part. So what I did is I went ahead, added an EQ, took out some of the low end, just so we don't get any frequency masking, which is basically the same reason why we sidechained the kick to the 808. So I went ahead, removed the low end, but most importantly, I removed the high end. This is just gonna muffle it a little bit more, and overall, it'll sound a lot nicer in the song. Then I went ahead, added in some reverb, actually a lot of reverb, to give it that spacious, far in the distance sound. So now if we have a listen before, and then after, you can hear it's a lot more distant, and in the context of the song, sounds really nice.
So fine, oh, we're fine, we're oh so fine, and
And now going back to what I said at the beginning of the video, these steps aren't in a particular order because when I'm usually mixing, I balance things out, then I stylize, but then sometimes if something doesn't sound right, I go back and balance. And that's okay with mixing. Mixing in itself is an art form. Yes, you can make a really great composition, but the thing is, mixing makes or breaks your song. It's a very creative process that you need to take time and dedication to, so don't be afraid to go back and tweak things as you need. So for example, I feel like this piano is too far back in the background. We added in the stylistic effects that I wanted, but the balance is still off. So I'm gonna listen, raise the level of it a little more, and get it to a certain point that I like.
so fine, oh, we're fine, we're oh so fine, and I'm feeling so good. We're fine.
So that's sounding a lot better. And again, this is a rough mix. You usually want to take more time with this because it's a very important process. So now let's move on to the chorus. Vocal mixing is a whole big process on its own. Unfortunately, I can't explain everything about it in this video. But again, just like I've mentioned before, I've made a video on this and this is actually my most viewed video today. Almost 100,000 views. And I want to thank all of you guys that have watched it and supported it. If you haven't watched that video already and you want to know how to get better at vocal mixing, go ahead, you know the drill, icon, how to mix your vocals in FL Studio. But just a quick overview, what I did with my vocals is I added a limiter, went to the compressor tab and added some compression just to level out the vocals a little bit more. Then I EQ'd as I usually EQ, added some spitfish that I actually didn't mention this in my vocal mixing tutorial, but I usually put spitfish on my vocals. And the reason for that is because spitfish is a de-esser. In some vocals you have really harsh s and t sounds, and basically what a de-esser does is it minimizes those so that they don't hurt your ears as much. And that's what the name is, de-esser, getting rid of the S sound. So spitfish is a free VST that I always use. It's super easy to use and it just makes your vocals sound a lot nicer. After a while, if you keep adding effects, you're gonna end up having frequencies that you start hearing and don't liking. So I went back, added a little EQ, and you can see I didn't do anything crazy. I just brought down one frequency that I really didn't like because most of the EQing is from the first EQ and we don't want to go overboard. So I just brought down a little bit. Next, I ended in the standard reverb, threw in some delay, and then a final EQ just to clean up everything that I didn't like. Again, a whole mixing tutorial right here. Just click the eye icon and you'll be taken to it after this video, of course. So let's go ahead, give this a listen. This is before,
Fine, we're fine,
and this is after.
fine, we're so fine, oh, we're fine, we're oh so fine.
And now you can see that vocal mixing made this 10 times better. But that's essentially it for step 2. Step 3 is stereoize. Basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking certain elements and widening them by using these knobs to give it more stereo separation or some more mono. We are also going to be using these pans to balance certain elements in the left and right ear. So generally a rule of thumb is that low end, like 808s and kicks, will be more mono, and then higher end is more stereo. Now you don't have to stereo and mono everything, but just take parts that you think should be. And again, just like everything else, I've created a video about stereo imaging, so if you want to check that out, click the eye icon up here. Some more useful information for you. But anyway, we're going to balance this out, give the 808 a little bit more mono. I know for a fact I want the guitar to have a little more stereo because that's the main chord structure of the song. We can even give the kick a little more mono. Again, don't want to go too overboard or else you're going to push it too much. So just a little bit, I think will be fine. And I definitely want to give the chorus a little more separation because again, this is what stands out the most. And usually I like to flavor it up as much as I can. Again, don't go too overboard, just keep it modest.
Fine, we're so fine. Oh, we're fine,
Now for me, I'm hearing the hi-hats a little too much on my right side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to balance this out a little bit by bringing it to the left.
Fine, we're so fine. Oh, we're fine, we're fine.
And just as a stylistic effect, I'm going to bring the clap a little more to the right. Now I know in a lot of trap songs, you usually hear hi-hats that flicker left and right. And that's another reason why you might want to use these left and right channels. Right now, we are just scratching the surface. I'm going to throw in a little bit more separation on the piano back here. And if we give it a listen.
Fine, we're so fine. Oh, we're fine,
that is sounding awesome.
I'm feeling so.
So with these 3 simple steps of balancing, stylizing, and stereoizing, you can make some pretty great mixes. It all just takes time and practice. I know when I first started off mixing, there wasn't much that I understood, and it really took time for me to develop an ear of what sounds good and doesn't sound good. So make sure that you keep learning and you keep practicing your mixing, because with time, you will develop a great mix. It just takes dedication. So make sure you don't give up. Again, these steps don't have to be followed in this specific order. I always go back and tweak things as I'm moving along. Just make sure you're tweaking things that make sense to you. Remember, mixing is an art form. There's so many things you can do to mix. Again, if you like the song that we're working on, it's my single called Oh So Fine. You can find it clicking the eye icon, or there'll be a link in the description to it as well. All the videos that I mentioned previously, like the vocal mixing tutorial, the stereo imaging tutorial, or the EQ tutorial, are all going to be up there as well. And I'll leave the link to my playlist all about making music in the description. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. Again, I am a recent high school graduate that's following my dream of music. So hopefully you want to subscribe, see more content that I post out there, and support me in my future endeavors. And hopefully I could give back some great information and inspire you to pursue your dreams as well. So make sure to subscribe, turn on the bell notification icon to get notified whenever I make a new video, share it to other people that might find this information useful, and leave a like and a comment for other tips that you might have for mixing. I want to make this comment section a nice community of people helping each other out. So go ahead, leave your tips and leave your thoughts, and shoot me a DM on Instagram if you have any questions or you just want to talk to me. I'm always open to talking to you guys. So go ahead, links are in the description to my social media. But thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you watching the whole way through. It really means a lot to me. Go practice your mixing, make the best mixes that you possibly can, and most importantly, don't be afraid to show your genius.
Fine, we're so fine. Oh, we're fine, we're oh so fine, and I'm feeling so good. Fine, we're so fine.